Howdy folks, Spencer here, and today I want to go over the stats of the Aetherian Revelation Intel Science ship. As always, chapters to everything are listed down below. First up, let's go over availability. The Aetherian Revelation is an Infinity Lockbox ship that is going to be added into the game alongside the Unparalleled Season Update, which is tomorrow, May 28th for those of us on PC, and sometime around the middle of June for those of you over on console. Now, a reminder that ships like this that are part of a lockbox are very expensive to acquire, and they are just for the single character that you open the ship box on. So, with the drop rates in this game, you could easily end up spending $200+ to get this ship for a single character, meaning that the stats on this thing best be really good to justify such a high price point, especially when there's been other Intel Science ships put into the C-Store in just the past couple of months that are available at a much lower price point as an account-wide unlock. So let's take a look and see if the stats make this ship worth it. And a quick note on the visuals here. This is clearly not that big Aetherian ship that we've seen in the story missions. This is something else, probably a bit smaller. And the front side of it is the larger facing that you see over on the right on this image here. The other picture that they had on the Play Star Trek Online blog was showing it with the aft on the right, so the correct front of the ship is this larger side from what I understand. And heading over to the stats, this thing has a hull modifier of 1.525, which is abnormally high. Science ships typically don't have that high of a hull mod, but this thing is really high. This is, I believe, 23rd here on the list now for highest hull mods in the game, and for science vessels specifically, it is the top hull mod that a science vessel has ever seen. The only other size ships that have ever surpassed that were all science carriers. So, abnormally high hull modifier on this one. And it's got a shield mod of 1.3, so the stats here, they want this thing to be rather tanky. They have a 3-3 weapon setup on it, 3 device slots, and then the bridge officer setup here just comes in and ruins everything. This thing has a lieutenant tactical, a lieutenant commander engineer, an ensign science, a commander science with intel, and a lieutenant commander universal with miracle worker. This is the first science ship to have this exact spec combo, but it has so much forced non-size seating that it just really hurts the overall potential of this ship. They've given it really tanky hull and shield mod stats there, but they haven't given it a bridge officer setup that's going to allow you to take advantage of that. With tank platforms in this game, you really want command seating on them at either a lieutenant commander or commander level, and the intel miracle worker combo here just isn't going to do that well. And for a pure science playstyle, you've got all of this forced non-size seating here, which is going to be limiting what you can do as a science platform on this. And the miracle worker seating being on the lieutenant commander, it just doesn't do much for you on a science build. There's no spore infused anomaly procs for miracle worker. There's no uncon abilities for miracle worker. It is just an incredibly weak specialization to have as a secondary spec on a science ship. So they really dropped the ball when it comes to the bridge officer setup that this thing has. And if you're looking for a good Intel Psi ship, that Chekhov Intel Psi warship is right in the C-Store for $30 on account-wide unlock, and is a far better platform than this Aetherian. Console-wise, this thing has 3 TAC consoles, 3 engineering, and 5 science, base turn rate of 7, impulse mod of 0.15, inertia of 60. For the power bonus, plus 20 to aux power. This does have sensor analysis, subsystem targeting, a secondary deflector slot. It, of course, has the gather intel ship mechanic. And for the Starship Mastery, it's the Science Vessel package, which is plus exotic damage, plus shield hit points, plus healing, and plus shield regen / hardness. And for the Admiralty card, we have 41 inch, 61 psi, and 24 TAC, with plus 6 inch per any ship that you have slotted alongside this. And heading over to the comparison, again, I don't think that the Aetherian Revelation is very good stats-wise. I think the bridge officer setup on it is going to be very limiting for any playstyle that you tried to use this ship for. So if you're looking for an Intel size ship, I would instead recommend the Chekhov Intel Science Warship, which again is a ship available directly in the C store on account-wide unlock for $30. And with that, you're getting an extra forward weapon. So if you're wanting to get a bit more weapons damage, the Chekhov's going to allow for that. The Chekhov does also have an innate lance, from what I recall. So that's another perk to it. But the big thing with the Chekhov is it has a much stronger bridge officer setup. It does also have a lot of forced non-size seating on it, but that Lieutenant Commander Engineer on the Chekhov is also where the Temporal is. And that Temporal secondary spec is going to do a lot more for you on a science build, and it being on the Engineer means you can just fill the Engineer with all those Temporal abilities, which are going to synergize very well with the science side of things. So I just feel like the Chekhov is a much stronger platform, and overall is just a better ship than what the Aetherian Revelation is. Now, if you're looking to set up a science-focused tank, I think that the Awani Command Carrier that came out in the 14th bundle earlier this year is also pretty good for that. The command seating on that is going to synergize much better for a tanking playstyle, and the Awani has must-have accessories on it that pretty much every STL player should have. The pets on it are crazy good, and the console it has is also a must-have for energy weapon builds. So I think everyone should already have the Awani just for the accessories, and I think if you're looking to do a side tank, you're going to have a lot more success with the Awani than you would the Aetherian Revelation. And for those of you looking to do just pure EPG on a side build, the Lucari Journer Scout ship is currently the top performing EPG platform in HSC, and that is a fleet ship. The Lucari Journer Scout ship is something you can get from your fleet if you have a tier 5 colony. It's going to cost you 20,000 fleet creds and 5 fleet ship modules, but that is still much more accessible than the Aetherian Revelation. And if you're looking to do a pure Psi, that has, being a scout ship, that has a very flexible bridge officer setup, meaning you have a lot of options with how to go in and configure it. So the point of this is that regardless of whatever your playstyle is on the science side of things, there are better platforms out there, and for what it cost, the Aetherian Revelation, it just honestly, it sort of sucks for how much it cost. So I just don't think this is a ship that you should go after at all. I think that there are many better options out there at a fraction of the price. And heading over to the accessories, the first one we have here is the console fractal redirection matrix, and you can see that when it's used on the Aetherian Revelation, it will cause the Revelation to transform there visually, so some Space Barbie effect if you're interested in that. And what it says here is that this mysterious Aetherian technology causes a cross-lattice network of energy relays to activate, redirecting incoming damage that impacts the ship's hull into a specialized series of weapon-like emitters that line the hull. The energy redirected in this is then forcefully ejected at a designated enemy target, causing them to suffer a portion of the damage their allies attempted to deal to you. This console has passives on it that provide a bonus to threat gen while you're in threatening stance, and max hull capacity, and that will scale up with your aux power. So this is a reflect ability, and the issue with reflex, like Feedback Pulse and Star Trek Online, is that they used to be really, really good. But it was around, I want to say like 7 or 8 years ago, they went in and they heavily nerfed all of the reflection type abilities in the game. And as you've probably noticed, if you've ever tried to use Feedback Pulse, they sort of suck. So my expectations for the clicky on this console is that it probably isn't going to do that well. The clicky is that you select a foe and you mark them for 20 seconds, and when you receive damage from any foe, it is going to redirect a percentage of all that damage to the marked foe as proton damage, and that percentage is going to scale with your auxiliary power level. You're also going to get a damage resistance buff while this is active, but again, those reflect abilities have been super, super nerfed, and I just don't expect this to do well at all. So you might be interested in it for the passives if you're a tank player, but I don't think that's going to be impactful enough to justify going out and spending $200 to $300 to get this for your tank. I just think that the clicky on this is going to suck, and I don't think that the passives are going to be enough to justify that cost. And next up is the Starship Trait Unity Shielding. So every few seconds, you're going to gain a charge of Unity Shielding that will increase your resilience against incoming hull damage. This effect may stack up to 10 times, and new charges refresh all existing charges. While you have at least one charge slotted, attackers may be automatically held when they deal damage to your ship. If an enemy is held in this manner, it is going to consume one charge of Unity Shielding. And for the enemy that is affected by that hold, they will then become immune to that effect for some time afterwards. That duration is then doubled for players in a PvP environment. And the rate at which new charges are gained for this trait is influenced by your current aux power level. So you can have up to 10 stacks, giving you plus 10 all damage resistance rating per stack, so up to plus 100. And when you take damage, it's going to consume one of those charges, and you're going to lose some of that resistance in order to hold your foe for a couple seconds. I don't think this is good. I mean, in PvP, this might be a really good trait in that environment, but for PvE, resistance at an endgame level is not the most desirable thing, and for going in and holding your foes, I don't see too much value for this in a PvE environment. PvP, sure, but I just don't see... I look at my tank builds, and I don't see any of them where I'd want to put this trait on. So this may appeal to some of you, but when I look at this, it just doesn't look that great to me. So time for my summary. I don't think the ship is worth it. I think that the ship overall has just an incredibly weak bridge officer setup, which just completely cripples the value of the ship itself. The accessories on this, I know, are going to appeal to some tank-focused players and especially to some PvPers. But when I look at the overall package here, this entire ship and the accessories just screams that this is an easy skip. So I'm not going to even bother to go out and try and get this thing. I don't think it's worth burning 1 to 1.5 billion EC on. I certainly don't think you should be ripping open lock boxes to try and get this. I think that there are better platforms available directly in the C store for a fraction of the price, like the Chekhov, if you're looking to do any of the Intel Psi stuff, the Awani, if you're actually looking to do a Psi-focused tank, and if you're looking to do just pure EPG, again, that Lucaria General Scout ship is a fleet ship, and that is currently the top Psi build in HSC. So I just don't see any reason to go out and spend $200 to $300 to obtain this ship. It just is not worth it to me, and I really don't see any reason for any of you to go out and pick this up either. So very easy pass. I can't recommend this ship at all. Even if the console passives turn out to be decent for a tank build, I just don't think it's worth that cost for what will probably be a very small buff for the tanking playstyle. So that's my thoughts on this. Let me know what you guys think of it down below. But that's going to be it for today. And as always, thank you to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. See you guys around.